Good morning, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for Saturday, July 4th, 2015. It's Happy Independence Day in the United States of America. Happy 4th of July. The United States is 239 years old. It's a cloudy day in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's going to be cloudy most of the day, highs in the low 70s. But we won't get any showers or rain, maybe a sprinkle here and there, but nothing significant. Some news to report. Rondo just signed a one-year contract with the Sacramento Kings, $10 million. And also, the Lowell Spinners beat the Connecticut Tigers by a score of 2-1. And Houston Astros beat the Boston Red Sox by the score of 12-8 in 10 innings. The Red Sox had a big lead, but they blew it. What else is new for the Red Sox this year? That's about it on the news. My next subject today is the review of the 1988 NWA pay-per-view, The Great American Bash, The Price for Freedom, from Baltimore, Maryland, in the Baltimore Civic Center. The Great American Bash was a tour that started in 1985 by Jim Crockett Promotions Mid-Atlantic. It was the idea of the American Dream. Dusty Rhodes, who was the booker for Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling and JCP around that time, and the Great American Bash was held at like minor league baseball stadiums and stuff, and it was a wrestling card, and afterwards they would have some country music and stuff like that. It was successful in 1985. It was a single show, and then in 1986 and 87 they had a tour through the Mid-Atlantic and JCP region of their territory, which was pretty good, and they had all kinds of box office records and stuff. And they did it again in 1987, which was pretty good. They created the War Games, which was a double-sided, two-ring steel cage, the Match Beyond, which was pretty good. And in 1988, they still did the Bash tour, but they had a pay-per-view for the Great American Bash in Baltimore, Maryland. And this was the first time the Great American Bash was on pay-per-view. The main event was for the NWA World Title, Nature Boy Ric Flair with J.J. Dillon in his corner facing off against Lex Luger. Plus, they had some good matches. Calling this pay-per-view was good old JR, Jim Ross, and Tony Schiavone. And there was one match that was a dark match that was not seen in the pay-per-view. Well, it was actually seen several weeks later on the syndicated main event, and it was also on TBS for the main event. It was Rick Steiner, who was the Florida heavyweight champion at that time, and Dick Murdoch facing off against Tim Horner and Kendall Windham. This was only about a 4-minute match. Rick Steiner and Dick Murdoch won this match pretty easily and stuff. It was just something you would see a typical main event for it, like a syndicated program, because these wrestlers were kind of mid-carders at best. Tim Horner and Kendall Windham were like jobbers in JCP at this point. And then this is what happened on the actual pay-per-view Great American Bash card, which was titled The Price for Freedom. The first match was for the NWA World Tag Team titles. It was the challengers Sting and Nikita Koloff facing off against two members of the Four Horsemen, Double A, Arn Anderson, the Enforcer, and Tully Blanchard with J.J. Dillon in their corner. This was a great match for the World Tag Team Championships for the NWA. Back and forth match. Sting put Blanchard in the Scorpion Deathlock, and it was just a few seconds to go, but Blanchard held on to the ropes, and the bell rang. The time limit expired. The 20-minute time limit expired, but it actually was close to 15, 16 minutes and stuff. In wrestling, when there's a time limit draw, it's gimmick, so it's actually not like 20 minutes, more like few minutes like before the actual 20 minutes and stuff like that. But the fans were mad about that. It was kind of a little bit of a disappointment for Sting to get dropped from, like, he was main eventing against Nature Boy Ric Flair at the first Clash of Champions, to being in the opening match with Nikita Koloff for the NWA World Tag Team Championships against Arn and Tully. I thought Sting and Nikita were going to win this, but this was a decent match, but a little disappointing about steam dropping down the cards in this one. The next match was for the United States Tag Team Championship. It was the current Tag Team Champions at the time, the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers from the City of Angels, who were the current United States Tag Team Championship champions, facing off against the Midnight Express, Beautiful Bobby Eaton, and Sweet Stan Lane, with James E. Cornette in their corner. But James E. Cornette had to be put in a straight jacket and put in up high in a small steel cage and stuff like that. And there was a stipulation: if the Fantastics beat the Midnight Express and in this match, then the Fantastics were going to give Jim Cornette 10 whip lashings with a belt and stuff. And if the Midnight Express won the match, they would regain the United States Championship. And the great thing about this match was, like, they had two referees. They put Jim Cornette in the cage and it was very funny in the straitjacket and stuff. And with the Fantastics and the Midnight Express, it was a very solid match. Back and forth, back and forth. Jim Cornette tried to throw stuff down foreign objects to help the Midnight Express, but the Fantastics intercepted them and stuff. But eventually a chain was brought in by, like, Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane and Tommy Rogers were legal men, but Tommy Rogers did not see Stan Lane tagging Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton hits Rogers with the chain, pins him 1, 2, 3. Midnight Express regained the United States Tag Team Championship, and Jim Cornette did not get a whiplashing, and the fans were very disappointed for that. But, like, the Fantastics and the Midnight Express had classic tag team matches in the NWA around 1988. They were probably one of the best tag team feuds of that year and stuff like that. The next match was the Tower of Doom triple cage match, and the Tower of Doom was 3 cages stacked up, all 3 stacked one on top of each other, and they had 10 wrestlers in this. One team was the Games Masters, Kevin Sullivan, the NWA TV champion at the time, Mike Rotundo, Al Perez with Gary Hart, the Russian Assassin, and Ivan Koloff. The Russian Assassin was played by Jack Victory, and he's not Russian. So when you have a Russian under a mask, they're not really Russians. In fact, all of the Russians who are played in professional wrestling aren't really Russians and stuff. And the Russian Assassin and Ivan Koloff was with Mr. One Paul Jones, facing off against this team, the Road Warriors Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, with Precious Paul Ellering, Steve, Dr. Death Williams, Ronnie Garvin, and Jimmy Garvin. And Jimmy Garvin's valet, Precious, had the key to this, like, the Tower of Doom match and stuff like that. And this angle was started by, like, Kevin Sullivan, the Games Master, stalking Precious, who was Jim Garvin's wife and stuff like that. And they were having, like, the storyline with a past that at one time, like, Kevin Sullivan had Precious in, like, his thing when he had that thing in Florida and stuff, but that was a storyline, but because I don't think Precious was ever part of Kevin Sullivan's Army of Darkness Championship Wrestling from Florida. It was just a storyline and stuff like that, and Kevin Sullivan was stalking Precious and stuff. And this Tower of Doom match, the triple cage match, was, you know, very, very awful in my opinion and stuff. And they had like the referees coming back and down in between the cages. The object of this cage is for the wrestlers to go down to start at the top of the third cage and work their way down second and one, and then exit the cage and stuff. It was, you know, very, you know, kind of a train wreck and stuff, and it was, you know, awful and stuff. It was like Jim Garvin's team won. Jim Garvin and Ronnie Garvin and Steve Dr. Jeff Williams and the Road Warriors won this match against Sullivan, Rotundo, Perez, the Russian Assassin, and Ivan Koloff. But afterwards, like, Kevin Sullivan was trying to stalk Precious and stuff, and, you know, Jimmy Garvin was, you know, knocked out, but Road Warrior Hawk saved the day and stuff like that. But this Tower of Doom match was awful. It was, you know, one of the worst matches of all time. I don't know why they should have had this match settled at in a War Games and stuff like that, because War Games will start the year before at the Great American Bash, but the War Games was Dusty Rhodes' idea, and he probably, with his, like, being the bookend, having a big ego, I don't want 10, I want myself in War Games, I don't want these other wrestlers in it. He would have probably said that. And then the next match was for the NWA United States Championship. It was Barry Windham with J.J. Dillon. Barry Windham was part of the Four Horsemen facing off against the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Storyline for this, Windham turned heel in April of 1988 against Lex Luger, and then he'd like betrayed Dusty Rhodes and stuff. Barry Windham won a tournament for the United States championship because it was vacated because Dusty Rhodes got suspended and he had to bring back the Midnight Rider for a few weeks, which didn't get over. But then Dusty came back and the Midnight Rider wasn't seen again. And this match was billed as student versus teacher, and this was one of the great matches of Dusty Rhodes' career, in my opinion, and stuff. Back and forth. Windham like used a claw on Dusty, but Dusty kicked out. Dusty used a figure 4 on Windham, but he grabbed to the ropes. But then the referee gets knocked out. Dusty hits the bionic elbow, and they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Counts to 15, but the referee's knocked out. And then, all of a sudden, Ronnie Garvin comes down in, and he's supposedly helping for the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And then, out of all of a sudden, Ronnie Garvin punches Dusty Rhodes, and the fans go wild. Ronnie Garvin turns heel on Dusty, and J.J. Dillon gets the referee back up. Windham goes on top of Dusty. 1, 2, 3. Barry Windham retains the United States Heavyweight Championship. This match was pretty good, but the ending was, it had no sense. What issue did like Ronnie Garvin have with Dusty Rhodes and stuff? That was setting up for a feud, but a few weeks later, Ronnie Garvin was fired by NWA, so there was no payoff. And the main event for this match, for this pay-per-view, the Great American Bash pay-per-view, the price for Freedom 1988, was for the NWA World Championship. It was the total package, Lex Luger facing off against Nature Boy Ric Flair with J.J. Dillon in his corner. Lex Luger was hot. He left the Horsemen in December of 1987, and it was his first shot at the NWA World Championship. And it was a back-and-forth match. Flair had Luger in the figure 4 leg lock, but Luger escaped that, and Luger continued to beat up Flair. The fans were going wild for Lex Luger. Lex Luger got a paper cut on his forehead, but that didn't stop him from putting a torture rack on Ric Flair. He had it for about 3 seconds, but then there was somebody from the Athletic Commission tell the referee to ring the bell, and the fans were going wild. They thought Lex Luger was the NWA World Championship. For the first time, they thought he won the world title, but the referee said that due to excessive bleeding by Lex Luger, that the match was stopped and Ric Flair retained the NWA World Championship. This was BS. The crowd was hot. The crowd was booing the decision like crazy. But backstage, there was a big fight between Booker, Dusty Rhodes, and Nature Boy Ric Flair about the ending of this match and stuff like that. Dusty Rhodes told Ric Flair he wanted Luger to go over at the Great American Bash to win the NWA World title against Ric Flair, but Ric Flair vetoed it many times and stuff. He wanted to drop the NWA World title to Sting, but Dusty insisted it was Lex Luger. Eventually, they came to a compromise to have this stupid decision, having Luger to lose on a technicality because of a paper cut. This was BS. This probably what killed the NWA in Baltimore for a while, because Luger was so popular. He was red hot as a baby face. They should have gave him the NWA World title at Great American Bash 1988. He could have dropped it to Ric Flair at Starrcade 88, but this was backstage politics and stuff, and this was a disaster. What did I think about my review of the Great American Bash 1988? Despite all of the this match and the ending of this match and the ending of the Dusty Rhodes Barry Windham match, which made kind of no sense, with like Ronnie Garvin knocking Dusty out. They never had a feud and stuff. I give it maybe a B plus. All of these matches are pretty solid, except the Tower of Doom third cage match, which is kind of a disaster. It's a train wreck and stuff like that. They should have had war games for the two-ring steel cage match besides Tower of Doom, but because Tower of Doom was very awful. But this is a solid B plus pay-per-view for the Great American Bash. Tomorrow I'm going to review Great American Bash 1989, which the main event was for the NWA World Championship. It was Terry Funk, the hardcore legend, also he's famous for saying, "You egg-sucking dog, you Dusty Rhodes," facing off against Ric Flair, the Nature Boy. Woo! And there'll be only one more video blog today because 4th of July holiday, because most of the day I'm going to be spending out, cookouts and stuff. And that the second video blog will be about the late great game show host and actor and Steiner Murdoch. Have a good day, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Happy 4th of July, and keep calm, and I'm a Julie Button guy. See you later.